Hi, I'm Dr. Marcus.
And I'm Charlie, and this is the Mood Booster Podcast.
In this podcast, we share practical tools, tips, and evidence-based advice to help boost your mood, improve your well-being, and find joy in every day.
We talk about life's highs, lows, and everything in between, with real stories and reflections from our own journeys.
Rooted in pillars of introspection, connection, and presence, this is the home of well-being and joy.
This episode is on managing expectations, isn't it?
It is thinking about those daily expectations that we might set either for ourselves or for our friends, our partners, even our managers, and how we sort of navigate those.
It's looking at expectations or managing them on a much more micro level, so the day-to-day, as you were just saying there, how we can set those boundaries and then also communicate that well as well.
Yeah.
It's a lovely episode. Hopefully you love it. Let us know, and let's go.
Let's do it.
Hello, everyone.
Buongiorno, hola, ¿qué tal?
Welcome back. Episode 19.
19.
19. He's getting good at your Spanish, aren't you?
15.
Very much
19.
getting impressive.
I know, impressive.
Bueno Spanish.
I'm basically
Marquise.
Rosetta Stone.
It's
at this
fantastic.
time.
Call you
Or
Duolingo.
Duolingo if you're down with the kids.
There you go.
But Rosetta Stone is
Down with the hip hop.
the OG.
Regardless, welcome back to the episode.
Regardless.
This is the first time you actually had this episode, so welcome for the first time.
Welcome.
Episode 19. This is Managing Expectations Part 1.
Numero uno.
Isn't
It is indeed. Managing Expectations Part 1. It's a big one. So excited for this one. We're just talking about managing expectations in a sense of how you manage your own expectations for yourself and your daily activities, whether that's what you want to achieve in that day and how you can sort of avoid upsetting yourself or frustration in that way if you don't achieve those expectations or meet those expectations.
Yeah, it's also managing expectations for other people as well. So what you expect of others, whether that's, again, in the workplace, in friendships, how important that is to communicate what you expect from others in any capacity.
And finally, expectations for other people about how you're going to be behaving and acting. So letting other people know what they should be expecting from you and managing those expectations as well. So it's threefold today, talking about the psychology behind those expectations and how the mechanisms at play might cause friction, disappointment, upset, and all those things.
Yes, I think this episode, we really want to go, as of right now, because we said part 1, how we want to do it more on the sort of micro scale of expectations, how it's the daily, what daily can you achieve through setting expectations, again, whether it's in the workplace, in little acts of kindness in friendship or in your relationship. A lot of this feeds into setting boundaries, which is why I'm really excited about this episode, I think.
Yeah. And of course, normally the advice will be throwing that advice out.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
it's going to be a good one.
Exactly.
Let's get into it.
Yes.
Are you okay?
I'm fine. Yes. How are you?
Good. Yeah. Peek behind the curtain. We're on our episode 4 recording. This is the final one. We don't need to mention it again because by this time you'll have listened every week. Charlie's about to get home. Actually, when you listen to this, he's home from his holiday.
Indeed.
So did you have a good holiday?
My holiday? Will this be when I get home?
Yeah, you'll be home yesterday.
Will I?
Yes, you get home on the Sunday, right? And this is going out on the Monday. So
I'm so confusion right now.
Yeah.
My holiday was fantastic. Thank you for asking.
You need that holiday, don't you?
I needed it. Whoa, the sun was strong. The sailing was gorgeous.
Did it live up to the expectations?
Well, I might save that for a bit. When we talk about macro expectations, I might save that for that.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Importantly, that's a good point. We wanted to have part 1 and part 2 because for us, there's big difference in expectations in terms of these sorts of daily frustrations or daily things that you might go through or setting yourself goals in the morning and then whether you achieve them or not, compared to things like a big holiday or a big birthday or an expectation for an event like, a 30th, 40th, 50th wedding, birthday or a wedding, and how when we can put those on such big pedestals and anchor our joy and happiness to them when they come around, whether there's a disparity there and what that does for us. And there's a lot to unpack there on a macro scale. So we just really wanted to separate these two types of expectations. So when Charlie gets back, he'll be able to reflect on his holiday and see if it gave him all the joy he's expected from it.
This holiday has been an expectation for a while. It's been booked in the calendar for a long, long time.
Yeah.
So thus, as normally, as one would, have quite a high expectation to what's to come. So upon my return from my sailing adventures, I can break it down. I can break it down live right here for everyone.
Go on, break it down for the viewer.
I can show you and you
No, not now.
exactly how my expectations matched my reality.
Yeah.
But yeah, in terms of the two different episodes, this one, as you've just said, we really want to dive in. We really want to dive into the micro, um, the micro scale of the expectations, the day-to-day things,
Yeah.
whether that's setting boundaries in a friendship, in a relationship, communicating exactly what you expect. Often, I know I've been hesitant to communicate what I expect because you want it to be expected and you want it not
It
to
to be
need to be
assumed.
communicated. Assumed.
Yeah.
You would like to, but often when we assume,
You make an
I
arse
don't know what that
out
means.
of you and me.
Who?
Exactly. So anyway, we're a bit tired. It's been a day.
Drop my iPad again.
So forgive the blahs.
Yes,
But we're
indeed.
here, we're showing up, and we're having a great time doing it. So
We are
let's
indeed.
get it done. Charlie, talk to me.
Yes. How my week was.
Yeah, so this is our. We've packed lots of things to reflect on. We're
Exactly.
now talking about your weekend.
My weekend. How's my weekend? So, one of the most important things happened as of the past year. Big.
Oh my life.
Oh my life. Are you ready for this?
Frick. Father
Yeah.
Frickmas.
Father Frickmas. Frickmas
Holy
de Gallo.
Frickballs.
Frico de Gallo.
Friganora.
So I went to Rufus de Sol
Oh
concert
my
in Crystal
goodness.
Palace Park.
Rufus de Sol. That is impeccable.
It was phenomenal.
Tell me
I've
more.
had these tickets booked for about a year now, so it's quite a funny story. I don't think you know.
I
What?
was going to say longer than a year, technically.
Is it long? I don't think it
Well,
was.
because you got scammed, didn't you?
I I was just about to start a story there, so thanks for spoiling it. I was about to bring the story. Did I tell you
What?
how
I
I got
don't know. What
scammed?
happened? Sorry.
Did I tell you in the end?
No, I don't remember.
Okay, so this was dating back to last summer. I was in Cornwall with my friend Tom and his girlfriend Gracie. We were at his house down in
Big up.
Cornwall. And she had mentioned that Rufus de Sol were playing like a short DJ concert in London, the Australian techno band.
Yes, thank you for clarifying.
And I remember because me and my brothers have been huge fans of them for so long now, for years. We've always listened to them. Have been some of our favorite songs. I think Felix was in the top 0.00 something percent of listeners all year. Crazy numbers. Anyway, so Gracie, Tom's girlfriend, says to me, "Yeah, they're actually playing soon. There were pre-release tickets. They're all sold out now." I was searching all online. I couldn't find them. So on the car journey back, I was looking through a Reddit chain. Oh no, a Facebook chain on a Facebook page, and someone said, "I have tickets. Does anyone want to buy them?" Rookie error. Yeah, I'd like to say I'm quite street smart. What? Something you want to say?
Carry on.
Anyway, before I was rudely interrupted there. So on the car journey back, I remember distinctly, I was talking to this guy. It was just so sus, but I was so desperate for these tickets. So I'm messaging this person. I then bank transfer him money, which was issue number one. You should never do that. It was like 50 quid or something. It
Seems
wasn't
legit.
a huge amount, but it was still, a sizable amount of money. Transfer him this money, and then waiting. I'm scrolling on the Ticketmaster app saying they still haven't come through. He's saying, yeah, they should be with you now. I accidentally click a button. It takes me back to the home screen where the tickets were for sale. For some reason, I think that's the tickets. I remember I was in the back seat with Grace. We were like, "Rah!" We were just freaking out, thinking I'd got the tickets. I hadn't.
You like rah?
What?
Did you say rah?
I did not say rah. Rah, where are my tickets?
Rah!
Rah! I didn't say that at all. So, basically, short story, I didn't get tickets for that. I actually got scammed for that. That was back in last June, I think. Last June, July.
Last July. Interested to know how you ended that conversation with your man who you were DMing for the tickets.
I think he just didn't respond.
Did you say, "Hi mate, where are my tickets?"
Yeah, I said all the usual stuff. Where are my tickets? Can I please have my tickets? Nothing happened. I think I might have even been blocked. I can't remember. I was pretty
Yikes.
annoyed.
Yeah.
Regardless, about a month later, they announced they were doing a global tour.
Praise be.
Praise be.
Praise be.
You best know. Upon release of the pre-sale tickets, I was one of the first ones. I bought 4 tickets. One for me, my 2 brothers, 2 for my brothers, and one for Gracie as well, because she asked for me to get her one as well. So I got the 4 tickets. A year comes round, and Saturday was the concert.
Oh my goodness.
I know. We've been waiting for it for so long.
How exciting.
I think they were in London ages ago, but I hadn't seen them in London. And, I mean, I've never seen them live, of course. So we went.
Course, naturally.
Phenomenal. The actual music itself was brilliant.
It was
25,000 people in the stadium, or in the park where it was.
That's
a lot of people. They were saying that back in 2013. this might be a little bit conceited, but I'll say it anyway. They said back in 2013 when they first came to London, they showed up to 50 people in a pub or a bar or something.
Wow.
It made me realise this is exactly what we're doing here. Got 50 people or so. We got how many people watching? Give it a number of years.
Give it a number of years.
Give it a number of years.
I know.
Numbers.
Crazy.
Crazy. Anyway, the music was great. I was getting Jude on my shoulders. It was quite funny because we were getting some drinks beforehand. Just before they started, Felix got 4 cans of beer all together, so we didn't have to go back. He was what's the word? Not avid. He was certain, that he wasn't going to go for a wee break during the actual concert.
That's a big statement.
After buying 4 cans of beer.
Even
we go into the concert 10 minutes in.
Pathetic.
He needs to leave, but we're right at the front, so he has to walk all the way through the entire crowd. He misses 4 of his favourite songs because he's gone.
That is
genuinely
very
45 minutes later he comes back. Jude and I have been on our own for 45 minutes. Felix walks back and is like, hey guys, apparently he just didn't find us. He was stood on his own about 20 meters to our right, cheering the songs to himself. So yeah, the whole night went by. All the music was phenomenal. They've got some great music as well. So we also brought a digital camera as well with us.
Nice.
So we have some fantastic pictures and videos of us just antics at the concert.
That'll be great to see.
Yeah, they're actually on my phone.
Where can we see those?
Oh, maybe if you check our carousel on Instagram and TikTok on Monday morning.
Nice. Where can that? What
pictures.
handles that under?
The Mood Booster podcast.
Oh, lovely.
So it's what they're listening to right now.
No, nice. We'll see that on Instagram.
Yes, Instagram, TikTok at the Mood Booster podcast.
Great.
Every Monday on our carousel, you'll see the pictures there.
We'll look forward to that.
Fantastic stuff. Then the night took a rather awful turn when we had to try and leave.
Oh, I feel like you've missed a key part of your story. Key revelation. Key. Like Biff and Chip finding the magic key. Probably too old for you as a reference.
I know Biff and Chip.
Oh, really?
Yep.
The magic key.
What did I miss?
Being
from my own
famous.
story. Oh my god.
Oh my days. So I'm there, I'll say it from my perspective and then you can obviously tell the main story. I'm there editing away because Lord knows I'm just editing, what's the word, without being derogatory.
You're the jam boy.
I'm an editing hound at the moment.
Derogatory.
I don't know. I was going to say a word, but it doesn't matter. Anyway, stick with me here.
You could say the word. They're
no.
They're not real.
What? You're not thinking of the word I was going to say. Doesn't matter. I'm just doing a lot of editing. I'm riding that editing wave. And I just get a call. And I'm like, why the hell is he calling me? He's supposed to be in the middle of a concert. I was like, okay, hi, what's up? It's like, you'll never guess what. I'm like, what? Someone's just recognised me and said, you're Charlie from Charlie and Marcus and that podcast on TikTok.
It was unbelievable.
I follow you.
So I was in the drinks queue with my brothers and I was just walking and this girl with her 2 friends was walking by, Phoebe. She was just walking by and I'm just looking over the crowd. I just see her looking at me. I look away and I still see she's looking at me. So I look back and I see just the word podcast be mouthed. So I look weirdly like longer. I'm just sort of trying to suss out if she's saying, and then she points at me. I'm like, okay, this is weird. And then I sort of hesitantly walk over. I'm like, hello? Hi? She's like, do you have a podcast? And as soon as she said that, I was like, this can't be real. This is absolutely fake.
You've been punked.
You've been punked. It's the prank patrol. So I walk over and she said, yeah, I think I follow you on TikTok. I was like, what? All I was saying was, what? And she said, yeah, you have your podcast with your friend, right? On TikTok. I was like, we do have a podcast. I do have a podcast with my friend. Yeah. So he's like, yeah, I follow you guys. I do follow you. And I was like, how do you, where, how? I was just
Who, what, where, when,
speechless.
how, why?
Genuinely, I couldn't ask anything.
Crazy.
I then look back and Felix and Jude are watching and then Felix instantly shouts, this is going to go straight to his head. I look back and they're like, is it? I'm just saying, no, absolutely not. It won't go to my head.
No.
One of the girls, I think one of the friends asks, has this happened to you before? Because I was clearly acting like a puppy dog. Like, I can't believe you recognise me. I said, oh, once or twice, just like it happens here or there. I was just more really grateful that she thought she could stop and say hi, or at least say, I think I follow you as well. We don't have the biggest following on TikTok at all by any sort of stretch. It's a very humble following. So for someone in a 25,000 people crowd, let alone London, be at the concert, recognise me by my face, say that she watches the content and also likes it as well, was absolutely baffling.
Cool
I know
stuff.
we said we had the other memory of possibly being recognized, but
Mm,
we're not sure if that was real or not.
yeah,
This was 100% because I wasn't wearing any mood booster merch. I was in my own clothes with my brothers. She just recognized my face from TikTok.
yeah, pretty
It was
cool.
genuinely surreal.
Yeah,
We definitely don't do this for the fame, but
pretty neat.
to have someone recognize like that was genuinely surreal.
Yeah, well, it's nice. It's like you're resonating because it's so easy to detach numbers when you're just looking at a
Yeah,
screen and there's a number there, and that's why also it's like, oh, we don't have a big following, but two, four, however many hundred people, that's a lot. If you to put that amount of people in front of you, that's huge,
it
and
is.
we never want to forget that or lose sight of that.
No.
So it is very cool, and each of those
Mm,
people are real people who are supporting and seeing us, and it's very nice. Like our live stream
exactly.
we did a live stream to celebrate the release of one of our very cool videos. Go check it out if you haven't already.
On
The
YouTube.
introduction to the Mood Booster podcast,
Indeed.
short film, and phenomenal. Sam Ashton Media, a great
Wizard.
videographer, editor, wizard.
Yeah.
And we just did a live stream on TikTok to celebrate it, and just had these lovely people sort
Kyle.
of just there supporting us and championing up and giving us feedback about what they appreciated about our manner and all those sorts of things. And it
Yeah.
was just they're real people who are taking their time to say those things to us. So yeah, I
Yeah.
never want to lose sight of that, even at our humble beginnings, let's say,
No, I think
um
just
in inverted commas.
completely.
Yeah.
It didn't, if it was just me, Felix and Jude weren't there, I wouldn't have made a slight bit of difference. The coolest part was that someone someone follows the content, someone likes what we're doing,
Mm,
and even if it's one person, it means the world.
yeah.
I remember I think I might have said this to you or someone else. Growing up, I always used to watch YouTube, and I'd always see the YouTubers say, "People recognize me. It's so cool. Thank you so much, guys." And I remember just watching it, being like, "Oh, this maybe one day I get to see this person." Very much not the scale of the YouTubers I was watching, but even sort of being in the driver's seat of having that situation
Mm.
handed to me was just the weirdest thing. It was really odd,
I don't think
but very nice.
I don't think it will ever feel like you've reached that point. It's now
No.
happened, and that's
Yeah.
it. Like it will always just happen.
Yeah.
Um, and I don't think it will be. There'll be a moment where you're like, oh, I've met the threshold. Now I'm that real YouTuber that I
Yeah.
looked up to. It's just happening.
Yeah.
We always minimize those things naturally as human
Very much
beings,
so.
and I'm
Jude was
sure those YouTubers that you were thinking that about had those exact same thoughts.
still do. Jude
Um,
was very much joking about being my bodyguard as well, which was hilarious because he's much shorter than me and smaller as well. But still, Jude, position might open up soon.
big up, yeah, maybe. Who
Big up,
knows?
Jude. But the bodyguard of the drinks line was moving us on, so I wasn't able to ask properly about how she found us, what she liked about the content. But Phoebe, if you're watching this, let us know. Lovely to meet you.
Shout out,
Hopefully, you had a lovely time at Rufus to
big
Salt.
up. Yeah,
So that was my night on Saturday. Very, very
nice,
eventful.
lovely,
And then Sunday, I had a family day where I spent it with
nice.
my family,
La familia.
my familia. Every year it happens. I don't often go just because I'm sometimes busy.
Mm.
But every year, second and third cousins try to network and connect with each other,
Oh,
just catch
nice
up on how life's
networking.
been.
Lovely.
And it was the first year without my nana, so it was important that we were all there as well,
Mm,
which was nice.
good.
So that was my Sunday, and then came back.
Lovely job.
How was your week? And
My weekend. Ooh. So we recorded Saturday, and then
mm,
I went for a 10K run around Richmond Park by myself. Um, kind of was Yeah, I was given some headphones from a company, which was very kind. And they said, you can make a video if you want to, but also just here's some headphones.
oh
So
nice.
that was great. I was trying them out for the first time. Actually, turns out they're phenomenal, and I'm not just saying it. I'm not even saying the brand name, so I'm definitely not just saying it for that reason. But they were great, and I've now worn them every day since because they are really good. So I really enjoyed those, but also just enjoyed bit of alone time. Like, I don't love alone time always, but it was just quite nice actually being intentional with just spending a bit of time by myself. Then spent the rest of the remainder of the day by myself editing. So just got a lot of editing at the moment. Part of the peek behind the curtains is
Mm,
lots of editing work that goes into the old pod.
a
Um,
lot of it.
yeah, which I love. But yeah, I think just where obviously you're going away, you had a busy weekend or so.
Yeah.
I've had a bit more free time, so just been as we do sharing the workload. It's my turn to sort of jump on that. So it's just been a bit of
Yeah.
eyes glued to the screen for a little bit. So my Saturday wasn't the most eventful. The run was really nice around Richmond Park. I do just
Mm,
enjoy a trail run around Richmond Park. It's the closest thing I can get to a trail run in London.
yeah.
Was just nice having, yeah, like that alone time, spreading the lungs, getting. I was a bit worried as I'm running. I run every day, have done for
6.
1,565
Well,
days
it's
or
more than
something
that.
like
It's
that.
600
Oh,
now.
1,600 and something days.
Yeah.
Jeez Louise. But over the last few weeks, I've just really sort of, I'm just ticking over and doing sort of small runs or smaller runs, sorry, small for what I'm used to. So it was nice to get out and actually do a longer run and a 10K and tick that off, especially ahead of the triathlon we have coming up this weekend. So it felt good to be able to have done that.
The start time for that's
Um,
looking bleak,
I
isn't
know,
it?
6 a.m. start
Oh
time for a
my god.
triathlon.
Oh.
As if it wasn't already hard enough to motivate yourself to get there. Oh, let's just add a 6
6 a.m.
a.m.
triathlon. Are
curveball.
you
I'm
joking?
sorry, what?
No, but it says get there for 5 a.m. is even the
Yeah,
worst part.
so you got to leave at 4.
That's up at 3. I'm also up at 3 the following day to go to Croatia. So that's 2 days in a row at 3 a.m.
I've still not actually comprehended that. When you just said that, I've just realised that that's actually what's going to have to happen, and
It's gonna be, I mean, it's gonna be rough.
that's going to be rough.
Real tired
Um,
boy hours.
but we kind of are in agreement because we're doing it with a brand who are letting us run through. Thanks very much.
Thanks, run through.
No, no offense to your start times.
Big offense. What are you doing? Who's the coordinator who's in charge? I'm angry.
That
I'm
is
not gonna let this
intense.
coordinator off the hook.
Sorry. We're obviously doing it and going to have a great time, but it's just
Uh,
scary to think about that
If you're the
start time.
coordinator who's responsible for 6
Um,
a.m., message me.
DM.
I've got something to say to you.
And then Sunday, I went back to London Fields. It seems like I'm there a lot these days.
Hey,
Only in the last couple of weeks I've been there a
it's a
few
lovely
times.
place.
Charlie's the second favorite place on the planet.
Not.
Um,
I should actually say it's
I
not
went.
on record. It's not.
I went and met up with my old housemate Nor, who's been mentioned many a time in this podcast. Big up Nor. She's an avid listener. And just it was nice to catch up with her. Wander around London Fields, got some ramen, which was delicious, kind of
Mm,
katsu-esque, but it wasn't fully a katsu
very
ramen dish.
nice.
Got a nice cookie. Just did some wandering round.
Mm,
Just chilled in the sun really, which was nice. And then I'm really in my Lime bike era at the moment, or Lime bike bag, or whatever the kids
with
say.
my line bike era.
Basically, I'm enjoying line bikes. To
How many
speak
Ks are you on?
normally, I'm not sure how many Ks I'm on, but basically just liming everywhere. I do have an actual bike, but I don't like the prospect of my bike being stolen, which is kind of stupid in London. It's like, well, why'd you have a bike?
That's ridiculous,
Anyway,
isn't it? Now I think about it.
I've been getting line passes. So from London Fields, we live in West London in the Ealing area. So was like, oh, let me just get on a line bike instead of going to Liverpool Street, which is the nearest station. I'll go to Bond Street, which is about 20 minutes, let's say. Got to Bond Street and was like, I'm really enjoying this. Let me go to Lancaster Gate, and then I'm like fighting against the minutes because I don't want to have to then pay. I bought a line pass. Got to Lancaster Gate, and it was like, okay, I've got to race down to Holland Park. And basically got to Holland Park. I was like, well, I could either pay to now get on a tube or just get another line pass for £3 or whatever it is. So just basically cycled the whole way home for an hour, which is just again real nice sort of solo time, just chilling out, taking in the
Mm,
surroundings, having a good time.
that's nice.
Got back and just then did more editing for the evening. So I was a workhorse this weekend,
You
but
were.
managed to still have some nice times
Thank
as
you.
well. Big up me. I'm so hard done by it. Oh, so
Oh,
difficult.
got to edit my pod.
Yeah, God. I feel like it was a little bit of a boring story there, but that was my weekend. It's
Yeah,
not
you've
boring,
just
it's
lost
just my
half of our
life.
listeners
I know,
there.
it's just my life.
Come back, Jack.
But you've got to set those expectations to people. You can't always have the most exciting concerts that you've been waiting to go to for a year. Do you know what I mean? Hey! I don't know why we're laughing.
Because you just segued us into how to manage
I'm glad you
expectations.
finally picked it up after all these weeks of segue offers.
I used to be the segue king.
Teed it
Now
up,
it's
fell down. Teed it up, fell down.
what did it
Teed it up.
do?
I don't know what this is supposed to be.
Basketball, tennis. So we're not playing tennis.
Oh, I was actually bowling, but that's less bowling than
Bowling. What
tennis
are you teeing
serving.
up a bowl?
I don't know. Sports is not
Trey,
my
you don't tee up a
forte.
serve
I'm not a
either.
sports person.
You just throw a serve.
I'm not a sports
Regardless,
person.
setting expectations,
Regardless.
managing expectations.
How are you with managing or setting expectations?
It's something I've had to be a lot more conscious of
Mm.
in the past year.
Talk to me.
So I think something that if I'm going back historically, something that I've never been great at is communicating how I feel.
Mm,
And maybe when my boundaries are stepped over, I I'm not aware of it because I don't quite know my own boundaries or my own values sometimes, or I didn't used to. So when they were stepped over, or when they just, whether it was in a friendship or a relationship or whatever it was, if my boundary in whatever element it would have been was stepped over, I wouldn't have been great at responding to that, and I
mm,
think I would have naturally shut down instead of communicating how that violated my boundary, with whether it was speaking disrespectfully. Let's just use that for instance. I was spoken to disrespectfully. I didn't know that I didn't like that. It felt wrong, but I wasn't able to communicate properly how that made me feel, that it violated my boundary.
mm,
And that also was something that I didn't expect as well.
yeah.
That wasn't something that I was going to manage as well. So I think something that in the past year, that I've had to really consciously learn is not only how to communicate, but how to successfully and try and nicely set and manage expectations
Mm,
in any sort of form as well, and just communicate
gracefully.
gracefully, whether it's preemptively,
Mm,
or postemptively. That's not a word.
retrospectively.
Retrospectively, just managing to communicate postemptively. I'm going to start using that now. Postemptively, setting
To
that
be fair.
expectation or managing that expectation. So let's say it's even in this friendship here. If you speak to me in a disrespectful way that I genuinely don't like,
On a daily basis.
it's on me to manage that expectation, saying, "Listen, I actually really don't appreciate that."
Mm,
Now, I think something as well that it goes into that I've found is being able to take accountability for your own self as well.
yeah.
It's so easy, I found, to externalize the responsibility or put it onto other people, saying, "But they're talking to me like this, but they're saying this, they're saying that, and that makes me feel this way." The question I need to ask myself is, have I actually explained or communicated that I don't like that? And that's a
Mm,
boundary I'm not willing to have them cross.
yeah.
So I think something that I've learned in the past year is very much it's so important to communicate healthily what you expect of everyone as well.
On that front, I completely agree. I think when it comes to other people and how you want to be treated by other people, which is I think what you're referencing,
Yeah.
I have for so long just worked on like an assumption based
Mm,
dynamic where I'm like, oh well, this is obvious to me that you should do this for someone, or this is
yeah.
obvious to me that you should have loyalty, or this is obvious to me that I don't know, you should uh, God knows, I don't know,
Yeah. Not lie.
not lie,
Yeah.
thank you. But that's not something that everyone is
Works under.
operates by, and everyone has different working schemas about how they operate and how they function in friendships, relationships, etc.
Yeah.
And it's on me to unlearn that or expect that explicitly or
Mm,
overtly from people.
yeah.
So what I have tried to do actively is think about that and really try to communicate with people that
Mm,
I have those expectations, or when they have been unmet, not, like you say, necessarily blame that person or think that they're bad, but actually think just because I think that, it doesn't mean that everyone else should think that.
yeah.
Or just because I might do that for someone, so I should, and I might expect that, therefore, they don't know that I expect that unless I tell them that. So when it comes to other people, I completely agree. Have been actively working on setting those expectations and being explicit with that and unapologetic with that, always with, like you say, grace and kindness, because
Yeah.
all you can do is communicate, and communication is so key. And if that's not happening, then there is going to be friction and disappointment and
Resentment
upset,
as well.
resentment hugely. I think another thing when we're talking about expectations is my one that I continually need to work on is my expectations for myself and my own productivity.
Yeah. Let's start there. Yeah.
Yeah, I overpromise myself, I think. Well, I used to, definitely more so. And
Yeah.
I think as I've been getting more confident into my worth in general, my worth in terms of working, my worth in terms of what I'm good at, what I like doing, I've been able to manage those expectations better
Mm,
and be more reasonable and realistic with those expectations. Having said that, I still very much overcommit myself to things and then
yeah.
punish myself or feel like I'm judging myself for not having met my own expectations. For
Yeah.
an example, last week I woke up, we very love had a very lovely conversation with Lovingly Artisan about how they have an intentions session every morning and they talk about what they want to achieve for the day. So I did that and very much said to you, okay, this is what I want to achieve in the day, and probably oversubscribed myself, definitely
I definitely
oversubscribed
did.
myself. immediately, and then by the end of the day, did one of the 5 things that I said I was gonna set out to do. What I did do well was not then judge myself and
Good.
spiral from that, but having said that, it could have easily led to an issue or me feeling upset that I hadn't done what I expected of myself.
Yeah.
So I am someone who always overcommits myself.
Yeah.
I think there's a blessing and a curse to that.
I know it well.
Yeah, I have got very far objectively in my life at my age
Mm.
from that
Yeah.
myself, as have you. Um,
Yeah.
but knowing myself, I wouldn't, if I didn't set such high expectations and be so punitive on myself sometimes, I wouldn't necessarily have a PhD right now. I wouldn't, be leading one of the best run clubs in London, if not the best run club in
It's the
London.
best one.
I
100%.
wouldn't be doing all of this. I wouldn't be thriving in my job, so there is a blessing and a curse to it, but it doesn't go without saying that I should I do need to work on being more gracious and kind to myself when I'm setting my own expectations for myself.
It's difficult, I think. I mean, I know I struggle a lot with, or I used to at least, with the judging part of the
Mm,
expectations. I've always had very high expectations of myself as well. I think since a young age, my parents split when I was
mm,
younger. Since a young age, I always took on the responsibility or the role of the sort of father figure when my dad had left briefly. I took it upon myself to look after my brothers, to look after my mum, and I took on this real role and this it's quite a fatherly figure. I took on this responsibility without being asked to, of course, and I think I sort of carried that on into my adult life, so that I'd basically hold very, very high standards for myself. I'd need to be achieving a lot, or I need to be, seen as always doing well, especially to the outside world, because of course I couldn't be seen to not be doing well, because that would make me weak, and then I couldn't look after other people as well. And so I think with that sort of preconception, and then if something doesn't go well, or my actual actions don't meet my expectations, there was a lot of judgment there for myself, which is the crux of the issue. I'd
mm,
sit there thinking, am I not enough? What's happened here? Where have I gone wrong? And it's holding such high expectations for yourself does mean that you can achieve a lot,
mm,
but in itself, you might not be happy if you're not achieving 80% of what you need to be achieving, when in reality, if you set those expectations a little bit lower or more realistic, you'd be completely happy with achieving just as much as you would have anyway.
mm.
So I very much know what it's like to judge yourself negatively for when you don't achieve your expectations. It's a difficult place to be.
How are you managing that as an adult now?
Conscious self love. Um, Conscious self love, very much so. About a year and a half ago, 2 years. When was it? A year and a half ago, I went to therapy for a bit. And just one of the overarching themes I think that I spoke to with my therapist was that just it was the self love was very much needed. I had all these big things that I was saying, these big goals and dreams and whatever. And we were talking about my childhood for a little bit of it, but I think something that I'd learned very much so was just to practice a lot of grace and self love, genuine self love, not just, oh, you can do this, you're Charlie, you definitely have this, the sort of confidence, but it's the kindness that you can speak to yourself when things don't go right. It's how do you show up for yourself. Inevitably, life will throw you hard things. It
Mm,
always happens, whether your expectations don't go to how you thought they should be, whatever it is. I think for me, it's just been a very much a really conscious process of if something doesn't go right, what is the internal dialogue that I'm saying, even if it's subconsciously, and try to be aware of that. So let's say, for instance, I go for a job interview and I don't get it.
mm,
Am I sat there saying, "Come on, get back on it. You're absolutely, get back on it. It's fine. You have it." Am I saying all these things, spurring me on, not allowing the space for me to say, "You know what, it's fine,"
mm,
or do I sit there and sort of think, "You know what, it's fine that you didn't get it.
mm.
You will get a job if you want it one day, and you're enough without this job as well.
Yeah, for
Know
sure.
that who you are, genuinely who you are, you're enough." But I think that's also taken a lot of internal work to know myself properly as well, whether it's through journaling or speaking with other people.
Mm,
I truly believe you can only truly love yourself if you know all your flaws, your errors. Everyone's got flaws.
mm,
It's if you know them and you can be comfortable with them, then you can show up yourself a lot better with a lot of
mm.
love.
So when those things don't go to plan, you don't revert to feeling like you're not enough and you're failing, whether it's your family or yourself or your brothers or whatever, because that's not the case.
Yeah. I think
You're
I've
able to practice the grace and all of those things.
I think so. I think it's also a bit of a shift away from the responsibility of knowing what I'm responsible for and what I'm not.
Mm,
I think because of what happened when I was younger with my parents, I took on a lot of responsibility in a lot of different facets, which I didn't need to,
mm,
nor should have as well. And I think just relinquishing that responsibility, genuinely relinquishing it, knowing that the more I can look after myself, the better I can show up for other people as well. That's
mm,
actually that's actually the better way. It's not by exhausting my own efforts, exhausting my own resources to
no,
the end that someone else is so satisfied that I can't show up for them.
mm,
It's actually looking after myself, and whatever that looks like is true self love. Whether that's alone time, meditation, exercise, whatever it is, practicing that, knowing that allows me to show up better. Um, yeah.
So showing up for yourself through these practices is showing yourself self-love.
For me, that is for me. That's one of my biggest forms of self love. Is sure it's the self talk, but it's knowing what I appreciate and what I like, and giving time and space for that.
Mm,
For me, that might be exercise, alone time, whatever it is. Solo travel for a little bit.
mm,
These things are what recharge my battery and what allow me to sort of balance out a little bit. And it's knowing that and finding time for that as well allows me to show up best for whoever it is, so that when something doesn't go right or the actual action doesn't meet the expectation,
mm,
I have more capacity to handle that.
mm.
That's just for within myself though.
No, well, it's important to know yourself, and it's a shared experience, I'm sure, with other people, even if it feels like, that is only your experience, but so much will be universal to other people as well. So
Yeah, of course.
thank you for sharing.
That's fine.
I think, I don't know if that also relates to, or if not, but I wonder if that relates to the third facet of how you communicate what people can expect from you. And maybe
Mm,
not necessarily when you were younger, but now in looking after yourself, you might tell people, okay, this is what you can have from me and what you can't have from me, and
I
this
think
is
I'm still
where I'm
working on
protecting
that.
myself.
Yeah, I think what I find difficult about that is erring on the side of, I wouldn't say I'm a complete people pleaser, probably less than you used to be,
Mm,
but I'm not a huge people pleaser. At least, I mean, I like to make people happy. That's
yeah.
obviously something that I absolutely love. So I think sometimes what I used to be afraid of was that if I set a boundary too harsh, I push people away.
Mm,
So that's probably the reason why I haven't communicated effectively enough what others can expect from me as well.
mm,
Um, and it's also knowing what I'm comfortable with. What are my boundaries?
mm,
What am I capable of, and what am I not?
yeah.
Figuring that out is tough as well.
Yeah. And how can you let other people know what they can and can't expect from you when you don't even know yourself necessarily?
That's it.
I think for me is there's contextual. So there's places where I do know those things, like in the workplace, and regardless of what job it is, in the past or current presently, I move with intention here to set expectations for other people of what they can and can't expect from me.
Yeah.
And I sometimes that comes with my rigidity, I think, maybe, or not is in a bad way, but look, this is what I am here to do and what I can do.
Mm.
And therefore, when you're asking me to do all of these extra things, which I firstly don't know how to do or don't have time to do, or for example, like if just as a basic example, which isn't the case for me, but just to help illustrate, if I only work on Tuesdays and Wednesdays, for example,
Yeah.
is to let people know if we're starting a project together and it's a tight deadline, just starting from the beginning, I'm only here on Tuesday and Wednesday for the next 2 weeks until the deadline. So this is as much you can expect from me. And people might say that I'm not being a team player or I'm not going above and beyond, but I'm doing as much as I can and should do in that context. And
Yeah.
that might be a bit transactional, but I'm also protecting my own time, my own peace, my own energy, and all of those things. I don't know what you think of that, but it's setting those and respecting, I think, the time from the beginning and just preemptively allowing people to know what they can in a practical sense, a working context, what they can and can't expect from me.
I think it might seem easier in a workplace context
Oh, for
because
sure.
obviously in a workplace people are expecting things from you
Mm,
in a much more transactional way, whereas in a relationship or even a friendship, how would one even go about saying in a friendship without sounding like a robot, this is what you can expect from my friendship, this is what you can
mm,
expect from me? Like friendships and relationships grow and they evolve roles in work don't
Yeah.
necessarily. It's pre-agreed on a contract usually.
Mm.
So I think it is tougher in a friendship or a relationship to say this is what you can expect from me.
It is really tough, and I have been in situations like that in the
Have
past,
you? What to try and
where I've had to let someone know,
mm,
for example, this is the level of, friendship that I do or don't necessarily want, and therefore this is the level of friendship that I can give you and therefore can't give you at the same time.
mm,
And it was one of the harder conversations I've ever had in a social context.
yeah,
But it was important, and everyone's ended up better off for that conversation because expectations weren't matched for anyone involved. They went awry, and they were just yeah, they weren't matched, and that was for no one's fault.
yeah,
And therefore it was important for me to, in that situation, having seen those expectations not be matched in that friendship or that, dynamic, to try and take hold of that for both parties and to
yeah,
allow one person to be able to let go and be okay and move forward, and the other person to be able to feel relinquished and not responsible for someone else's well-being, for example.
yeah,
And again, it feels transactional, but sometimes we're social beings. We're also, we're speaking to people here who have parenting responsibilities, all of these things. They don't necessarily have the capacity to have all of these friendships, and if someone is asking too much of them, it's very much within their right and their reasonable capacity to say, I just don't have the space for this right now, and that's
yeah,
okay. And that's another way of managing and setting expectations for what someone can and can't expect of you.
mm.
So saying to someone, look, I'm moving house over the next 6 months. I'm gonna be a bit MIA. Please don't take it personally.
The best thing that
I
you can do for
cherish
both
you,
you and them.
but it's being intentional and preemptive and saying, I love you or I value you, but this is happening. Therefore, this is what you can and can't expect from me. And
Yeah,
it's those sorts of, I think it takes a level of maturity and
it does.
proactivity to see that in advance and be like, I care for this person so much that I don't want to upset them, or I don't want their expectations to be unmet. Therefore, let me be proactive in setting an expectation for them. But
Exactly.
so often in friendships, we just let the unspoken do the talking.
Yep. We assume
Yeah, we
because it's
assume,
easy to assume.
and it can, that's great if you've got very astute friends who are very, emotionally aware and secure in themselves and things. But if the second insecurity seeps in, or the second misinterpretation seeps in, we have problems, and it's
Yeah,
important that we can manage expectations of what someone can expect from you as well as what you should expect from them.
it's true.
So it does bleed over from a working setting, and I think, yes, you're right. There's a lot more tangible and relatable examples in a working context of where you should say, "This is my boundary or my
Yeah,
what you can expect from me as an employee here." But in friendships, I think it's just something we're not necessarily used to, but something that can be very helpful, and
yeah,
something that I feel like I and we as a collective, um, like a community, could be doing more of and would only benefit. But it feels like you say, it feels like it's robotic. It feels like you're being cold, but it doesn't need to
well,
be.
that's because I mean, I think so much of how we paint, let's just say relationships for now,
Mm,
how much of we paint relationships through media, songs, everything is this romantic, sort of amazing thing that you just always know. You know from first sight, and you always
mm,
know, and you just get each other and you just click, and all these
mm.
things. Realistically, relationships which are romantic or platonic are built through constant communication.
Yeah.
That's the only thing.
Mm.
Only thing. It's
Communication.
talking over communication. It's talking about, your the future. It's the preemptive talking. Is saying, listen, I know we're a while away from this, but I just wanted to preemptively get it, just so you don't feel this certain way. Saying that it doesn't come from a place of fear, it comes from a place of love.
Mm,
It doesn't come from a place of, if I don't get this right now, this might happen. It's like, no, I care about this person.
mm.
So I'm going to say this because I want them to feel looked after, or I
Yeah.
want to look after myself in this capacity as well.
Mm,
And so it's through managing that expectation, whether it's preemptively or retrospectively, it can only have good benefits because it's
mm.
setting that boundary right there.
Yeah. I agree.
I agree
Um,
wholeheartedly.
and that's why, but you can see why, and what we'll probably unpack momentarily is why, when expectations aren't met, which is so often the case,
Yeah,
whether that's your own expectation for yourself or your expectation from someone else, or what you've, your unmet expectation for how you're treating someone else,
yeah.
any of those can cause frictions, upset, disappointments,
Resentment,
resentment.
frustration, it's all there.
Yeah.
And it
It is.
doesn't mean that that person is flawed or not the right person for you in either a platonic or a relationship. It just means there's unspoken things.
Yeah.
That's something really important to note. I think we do still think often, oh, this person's just it's just not it's just not right for me,
Mm.
whatever it might be. It's knowing that don't jump to that conclusion.
Yeah.
No, they might not be. That's not what there might be that odd occasion, but communicating your true feelings
Well,
will always help.
I think when you start to communicate, you're very what also communication will help with is it very quickly allows you to realize compatibility in that
Of
way, because
course,
when you
how
start
open
to
they
communicate and it's
yeah.
not reciprocated, or you can't come to that end goal or whatever, like you say, whether it is romantic or platonic or whatever,
Yeah.
you can very quickly see, okay, this is just this communication, for no matter how much we're trying here, is just not working out, and that is okay as well,
Yeah.
and helpful to actualize and come to the realization of.
How
I think,
open-minded one is huge.
yeah,
It's hugely important.
it's also nice to have this conversation because I often think that I'm an over communicator, and like
Mm.
in this context of you and I, uh, you and me, I think, I am, like you say, too, what's the word, robotic, or like a burden for sort of having these, especially like the business context, having these important conversations about, okay, well, when we were in this context here, in this speaking to this person, how did you felt like I did it? How did you feel like whatever? Is there anything I could have done differently? Or, I, for example, didn't expect you to say this to me, or didn't expect you to forget me here in this moment when we're
Yeah.
supposed to be a team, or whatever. And I often feel like when either way, God, that's a bit laborious, or like I'm being a burden, but it's only ever, as we say, it's only ever strengthened, and it only ever helps the future dynamic of what's
Yeah,
going
and there's
on.
nothing
And
left unspoken.
yeah, and it feels at the time like, God, it's going to be annoying. I'm needing to bring this up, and I'm just being boring, but it's always a helpful thing. And I always value that when it's also brought to my door, because I only want to be doing the best and treating people, in this context, you, the best,
Yeah,
and doing the best by you. I would far much rather that be, I would know that, than not, and then
of
it just
course.
go unheard and build up.
Yeah,
Because I, of course, want to be treating people as best as I can, and if I'm falling short of that, I would love to know, and I want to know.
of course.
Um, so yeah, again, I think it's just an example of how it feels like you might be being boring, a burden,
Overbearing.
overbearing. But ultimately, if I feel like if it's the right person and the right friend or the right partner or the right family member,
They'll hear you out.
they'll hear you out, and they will want to set those expectations with you and reciprocate them with you, I believe.
Completely.
And if they don't, then potentially they're not respecting you as a person,
All your
or
boundaries.
your expectations or boundaries.
Completely.
Um, Talking of all of the above,
Hmm.
should we get into some theory?
I'd love to hear some theory.
Should we get into some
Dr. Marcus,
the
do you have any
meat of it
theory
all?
for us?
Dr. Marcus, do I have some theory? I think I do have some theories for you.
Enlighten.
Charlie and I were researching away earlier, a lot of
Mm.
some of which we already know. I know, Charlie knows, whatever. But it's nice either revision or just to make notes of. Some studies seeing for the first time, which is quite
Yeah.
exciting.
Some new names on
So
there.
excited to share with you. Um, So, yeah, should we get into it? We are bringing up an old theory that we've already spoken about, but the cognitive dissonance theory.
Mm.
So, this is more about our own expectations for ourselves, and how when we fall short of the expectations we impose on ourselves, we get disappointed, frustrated, upset with ourselves. So, the core idea of the cognitive dissonance theory, from some notes I made earlier, when we hold two conflicting beliefs, or when our actions contradict our values, we experience mental discomfort. AKA, if we have this idea of what we should be here and what we should be achieving here, or the expectation here of I should achieve this today, and then that is then met with the reality, or the other belief here, which is the
Mm.
reality of that didn't happen. There's a conflicting information there, which then causes the dissonance, hence cognitive dissonance, and dissatisfaction, discomfort, frustration.
So that's
Um,
if you say on a very small level, I want to go to the gym today, I want to do that today, and you don't.
yeah,
It's that it's
it,
that dissonance between what your expectation was versus the reality.
yeah. There's a
Okay.
gap there between the ideal and the reality,
Yeah.
basically. So that is the cognitive dissonance theory. Um, you can also have the chronic dissonance and that's where we lead to things like burnout, which obviously we spoke about in a previous episode, when over and over again you're having this dissonance on a daily basis, and basically you just feel like you're drowning and you're constantly wanting to do better, but always falling short of your expectations of yourself.
Interesting.
And that, yeah, like I say, leads to a significant harm in your self-esteem, increased anxiety, and symptoms of
So
burnout.
it's the repeated disparity between what you think you should be achieving or
Hmm.
your expectation
Hmm.
versus what you're actually doing.
Hmm.
Basically setting the bar too high and constantly succeeding to that
Yeah,
will
not being
will
able to
cause
meet
you.
meet your own
Yeah, not
expectations.
needing to meet will actually lead to a
Yeah,
really a big damage in your own self-image.
yeah.
Got it.
So the dissonance basically is dissonance between
Yeah.
ideal and actual,
Got it.
or the reality.
Interesting.
Quite a simple one, but one they don't always have to be complicated. I don't think
I like
it
that.
reigns true, and I think it's interesting and relevant to your expectations of yourself and how
Yeah.
I resonates with me massively. I
Mm.
constantly, well, used to be constantly beating myself up about what I wasn't and was doing, or yeah, definitely wasn't doing. Then we get to more of the relational side of
Yes, very
expectations.
interesting.
And we have the social exchange theory.
Okay.
So, the social exchange theory, the core idea is that relationships are built on perceived fairness. If you think about it, we're social beings. We have myself here and you there. Every interaction we have, there's some level of I'm here, I'm functioning for myself, I'm only myself as an actor. I have to survive, I have to have pleasure, I have to do all these things. Anytime I interact with another person, regardless of if it's a hi bye conversation, there's always some level of compromise.
Mm.
You are the immediate response to interacting with another human being, whether it's most often subconscious, whether it's really bad or not, or completely detrimental, you're always compromising in some way, because you can only ever fully serve yourself when you're in isolation. Whenever you're interacting with someone else, there's some level of compromise, and that's absolutely fine. That's
Yeah.
We're social beings, and that's what we're used to doing, and we do it every single day when we interact with people. But that leads to an idea of fairness, and perceived fairness. So people aim to maximize rewards and minimize costs in their interactions. So people don't want to
Mm.
feel like there's an imbalance there between what they are getting and what they're giving
What they're
into
putting in.
a transaction, or in this instance a transaction, but an interaction, a relationship, a communication.
That is one of the things that people say is that when you start to see relationships as more transactional, because in essence, one person will always be putting in more than the other, won't
Mm.
they? Whether it's a complete imbalance or whether it's
Mm-hmm.
flipping, seeing it as transactional is tough in itself. But this
Yep.
is saying that when it is seen as transactional, if you're giving more than you're getting,
Yep.
that's where that difference comes from.
Exactly.
Okay.
So if someone expects too much from you, whether
Mm,
that's emotionally or practically, and the effort to reward ratio then becomes unbalanced,
okay.
and you're likely to feel used or resentful because your effort is far exceeding the reward of what that relationship or that person is giving back to you.
Interesting.
And where this comes into expectations is, well, when we have an expectation of what we should be receiving or what we should be gaining from this relationship, that's not being met. We then feel it's unfair, and then the ratio is out of whack.
And then that
And the
resentment builds up.
exchange, yeah, there's not a fair exchange there, basically.
Interesting.
Um, and that comes from, like we've been saying this whole time, unclear, unspoken expectations. That's
Yep.
what often leads to relational friction. Especially, and this isn't
Mm.
important to remember, this isn't only in emotional connections, this is also in the workplace as well.
Yeah, it's
So
tough because if you feel sorry to cut you off
that's
there,
all
but
right.
it's tough because if you feel like you're giving more than the other person, the step that it requires to take, which is the accountability saying, so I have to be the one to set my expectations or I have to be the one to bring up this idea,
Mm,
feels even harder, especially if, let's say, we're in I don't know, let's even say between us two, I feel like I'm putting more into this friendship than you are.
mm,
So I feel like I'm getting less back. So
yeah.
I'm spending more than what I'm receiving.
Mm,
It's tough because what we're saying is the actual important thing to do is me to express my expectations aren't being met.
yeah.
But that's tough because that's also requiring me to take the accountability and the responsibility to preface that,
Yeah.
which is a lot because so far I'm not even receiving that much. So then it's saying, okay, well, the actual way to get through it, speak up. So, oh, that's even tougher because now Have to go through that.
But remember what I said at the beginning.
Mm,
That's your assumption of what you think you should be getting based on how you operate.
that's a good point.
To assume someone else knows that is your assumption, and your assumption alone, based on how you operate. And it's on us to work to act with grace and to understand that everyone has different experiences and perspectives.
Yeah.
And yes, I massively empathize. My biggest thing is, why should I even have to say this in the first place? This is obvious. You shouldn't have to, like your example earlier, I shouldn't have to ask not to be lied to, for example.
Mm.
But, and maybe that's a bad example because that's quite an
That's a
morally obvious
that's a
thing.
human trait. Yeah.
I shouldn't have to ask for my, I don't know, my dinner to be made, whatever it is. I don't know. I don't. I can't think of an example.
That's a hilarious example.
Uh,
Mum, make me dinner.
yeah, but like if I've made you dinner 5 times in a row,
Yeah.
I shouldn't have to then be like, surely it's obvious that I've made you dinner 5 times in a row.
Mm.
The sixth time you're now making dinner for yourself, that's obvious to you that you should make my dinner. That might not be. You
It
might
might
not
not
know
be.
that. And
No.
that's, yes, for most people that might be obvious, but that's on me for assuming and not having that communication. And I feel resentful that I need to say that, but I must at least give the grace and the opportunity for that person to match my needs
It's
and
the taking the
and to step.
accountability, isn't
I
it?
must, yeah, I must give that person at least the opportunity to step up to my expectation.
Yeah.
Yes, I can communicate that. And if they then don't and they continue to let that down,
That's
that's a
on
different
you.
story.
That's on
And
them.
that is then resentment and things. But we must first at least try to communicate that.
Yeah.
And this is where, when it comes to the exchange theory, the social exchange theory, that the problems first arise when we don't even communicate these expectations. So we immediately feel like we're out of pocket because we're doing more than what the person's giving,
Yeah.
because we haven't even communicated it in the first place.
God, it's the crux to everything, isn't it?
And again, like I say, this is also very important and context to a workplace as well.
Of course, no, it differs hugely. Workplace or relationship, I think I think it goes back to, if we're not respecting our own boundaries, if we're people pleasing, it's very easy to be walked over.
Yeah.
And then after years of being walked over, get very resentful when you've not been respecting your own boundaries. You've been letting you give more than you're actually receiving. And then just years of build up turns into snapping, when realistically it's being present and realizing your expectations aren't being met.
It's the classic trope in the workplace of, you do something well, they will just keep asking you to do it, and they ask you to do more. And the first thing they asked you to do was not even in your remit, let alone the fifth thing they've now asked you on the fifth round of
Yeah.
what. Whereas if you just said in the beginning, respectfully, oh, you might be better off asking this person because I don't have the capacity, or this isn't something that's within my remit, or I don't have the knowledge to be able to do this, you then immediately set that expectation. Whereas the second you then just are like, "Oh, I'll just do it this one time, and then they'll know that I can't keep doing this." How are they to know? They are a director. They don't know the ins and outs of your job spec, for example.
Yeah.
It's on you to say, either redirect or say, this isn't something I can do. I don't have the knowledge to do. I don't even have the access on my computer to do, let alone, for example. If you just say, "Oh, I'll do it this one time," and then they'll know, they won't know. They'll just ask, because you've done it now. And you've probably done it well because you're you. They're more likely to then ask you again, and then it's just that cycle again. And it's the exact same thing in a relationship, a friendship. If we just let it go unspoken, it can just build, and it's on us to come back to that and set that expectation from the get go.
It is.
And so many times it's easier said than done, and so many times, especially in my 20s, but I'm sure it's something that resonates with people in all decades of their life. But I say in my 20s, I see so many of my friends saying, "Oh, my boss has got me to do this," or "My boss is telling me to do this," or "I'm having to work these extra hours because who else is going to do it?" And it's so much easier said than done. But ultimately, they also give the same advice to their friends, saying, "No, set that expectation that you can't work all those
funny,
hours."
isn't it?
We're all there yapping at each other, saying, "Set that expectation," whilst
Not
being
doing it.
subservient to.
I mean, it often happens. You hear about this thing when, I know this is more going into communication, but for instance, people they're complaining about their partners to their friends, saying, "Oh, this person's doing this again," or "I just don't feel like I'm being listened to," whatever. And you say, "Well, have you spoken to them about it? Have you said that you don't feel like you're being listened to, or that your expectations aren't being met?" Not quite, but like, it just annoys me so much. Just speak to this person, communicate what your expectations are.
Yeah,
Then, as you said, if it gets to that point and it's still not happening, that's on them.
that's a
But
different
you owe it
conversation.
to yourself to first set your expectations and communicate that well.
Mm.
Oh, it's true.
It is true.
So that's the theory.
Yeah.
I wonder if there's any research
Do you
into
wonder if
this.
there's any research?
Is there any research?
Yeah, there is.
Ooh.
This is more to do with the workplace, which I do want to. I know we're talking a lot about relationships, but I don't want to lose sight of workplace because it's
It's
important to
just as
people,
important.
and it is something that I know a lot of people struggle with.
Yeah.
So yeah, this study that we found here is specific to the workplace, which I quite like. It's quite interesting in terms of
Okay.
workplace satisfaction and lack thereof, and all those things, and loyalty and whatnot.
Yeah.
So Eisenberger
Yeah.
basically looked at organizational support or perceived organizational support. They focused on employee expectations and how they form based on their perception of how much the workplace cares for them. And it relates to how emotional and logistic support create a sense of fairness. So coming back to the exchange theory, which then drives from their hypotheses motivation and someone's performance in the workplace.
Mm.
So what they found, very simply put, is when the employees felt supported, they reciprocated this with greater loyalty, effort, and communication in the workplace. But violations of expectations were found to be significantly related to reduced commitment to the workplace, self-reported commitment to the workplace.
Interesting.
So immediately, the second someone felt violated in terms of their expectations or their expectations not being met, their commitment to the workplace. So it's a very simple sort of
Yeah.
connection that's been found there through this study, but just shows that someone's immediately lacks commitment and therefore performance and motivation to work when they feel like their expectations aren't being met in the workplace. And more of a implementation or practical, I guess, step from the previous study is Gabor and Hill looked at the similar dynamics, but manager-subordinate relationships, and found that these mismatched expectations were a primary source of friction, the primary source of friction in the workplace. So they posed the idea that actually, when you can manage these expectations up front, this actually in this study promoted trust and these reduced misunderstandings. So actually,
It's exactly what
again,
we're saying.
being preemptive with these expectations, even
Mm.
in the research, is showing improved trust and reduced misunderstandings.
It's to communicate it preemptively.
Communication.
Preemptively communicate it.
Well, I think we've been talking around it, so why don't we just talk about the advice that we want to share
The
today
how
from
the how-to, the tools
Dr.
and
Marcus and
tips.
Charlie's advice on setting expectations.
I think it's probably good to split it into how to set expectations for yourself and then also for others
For
as
sure.
well.
Let's go. So,
In
advice for managing expectations. Let's go.
For yourself, number one, set good enough goals. So don't aim for perfect, but define what a successful day or task looks like realistically.
Número dos. Track progress, not just outcomes.
Number three is anticipate the obstacles.
Mm-hmm. Number four, check the source of where your intention or your expectation is coming from.
And number five is build in flex. So give yourself grace when plans change. Be kind to yourself.
Cool. And then when we're talking about expectations for others, you want to go?
Main one, I think it all stems from this, is preemptively set boundaries.
Yes.
Be intentional with what boundaries you want to set.
Número dos, be kind but be direct. Gracious but direct at all times. Don't leave room for interpretation.
Number three is manage up. So whether this is in a workplace or a relationship, tell your boss, your friend, or your partner how you work best.
Nice.
Yep.
Number four. Number four.
Mm.
Have expectations MOTs, which is check-ins later down the line.
And lastly is to follow through. So if you're setting these expectations, make sure that you're committing to them. Don't say them and then don't follow through, as this will confuse a lot of people as well.
Yeah. So lots of advice there, lots of
Mm.
different tips. I think a lot of it stems from basically being preemptive with your expectations and openly communicating them.
Yep.
Get on top of them, speak before they become needed. If you set them in the first place, it feels like you're being, you know, a robot, but ultimately you're protecting yourself, you're protecting the other person, and you're just allowing everyone to operate with the most information and the best intention moving forward.
Exactly.
Yeah?
Completely agree. I think it's the preemptive
Yeah.
and just the setting the boundaries and being kind to yourself as
Mm.
well.
When it comes to yourself, though, I think the good enough goals,
Yeah.
to me, when I was first thinking about that and we were discussing it, I
Mm.
think it was like, oh, well, that sounds a bit like meh, or you're being underwhelming. But I actually think, no, it is just being gracious and kind to yourself.
Yeah.
We don't have to have these huge, profound wins every day. Sometimes it's okay just to make my bed, or, I use that example all the time, but there is just days that good enough is more than okay, and just being there and surviving is just okay, and that's more than okay sometimes. So having good enough goals as well as your, desired outcomes, good enough just allows you to reduce that disappointment, reduce that friction between, your ideal and your reality, and just allows you to be a bit more gracious with yourself.
Keeps you present as well.
Hmm.
Keeps you present in what the reality actually is.
Yeah.
That's fantastic.
Talking about presence, tracking progress and not just outcomes is huge for me and us. We talk about that all the time. We don't want to just be looking to outcomes and big goals. We want to be checking in on a daily basis. We want to see, okay, how are we doing? How are things going? If we're just looking to the big goals and the big ideals, we're going to get frustrated because we're going to think we're not there yet. Our reality is not going to be that big goal and that big ideal. But actually, if we can sit with the progress and actually acknowledge where we've come so far, yes, it might not be where we want to be yet, but we're still better than where we were yesterday. And just allowing yourself to realize that is so important in reducing that friction and disappointment.
Exactly. Yeah. I think the third one is sort of anticipating the obstacles is, again, it sort of feeds into the first one, is being realistic with what the actual sort of day is looking like, and setting realistic goals. Is anticipating the obstacles will allow you to set more realistic expectations from the get-go, so that
Hmm.
you might not be let down when you don't meet your expectations in the first place.
Yeah.
This can be in any capacity. If your work day is looking full, just say, I'm not going to have any time to handle this. That is being realistic about what your day actually has in store. That's absolutely fine as well.
Yeah. Fourth, huge for me,
This is huge.
and I know you agree as well, is actually checking the source of your expectation. So why do I want to achieve this for myself? Where is that coming from? Is it because my friends achieved that? My teachers are telling me I
Mm,
need to achieve that? My boss is telling me I need to achieve that? Or is it because it's something that I truly am internalizing and meets my desires, my passions, my goals, my joy?
yeah.
Because so often we will find it's the former, and we're being like, I've not bought a house yet. My best friend's bought a house. If I actually think about it, personally, I don't own a house, and I don't necessarily want to own a house right now.
Mm,
Um, I could be beating myself up because many of my friends in this age bracket are now buying their first houses and being like, "Ah, I should have this expectation for myself. Why have I not yet bought a house?" But let me think about that critically. Where if I were to be thinking that, that's only coming from an external place of that's what other people are doing and looking laterally and comparing.
mm,
When I think about actually what I want for my life, right now I don't want that for my life. So when I really think about it and think about and analyze where the source of that expectation comes from, I'm allowing myself to unpack it and strip that away and realize that that's actually not something I want. And if we do that more often, I feel like we would realize actually a lot of these things that we're beating ourselves for not achieving, beating ourselves up for not achieving, we'd actually be like, that's really not actually that important to me.
a lot of it comes from the comparison that we
Yeah.
have with others as well. And
Hmm.
again, whether it's social media or just in general, what we see and hear from our friends, comparing ourselves to what our friends are doing will often lead to us adopting these beliefs that we don't even think that we actually want.
Yeah.
Whether it's someone your age getting married or having a house, you're like, oh, I think I should have been doing that at this age, and I'm not. Now I'm not happy. Well, do you even want to be married? Do you
Mm.
even want to be settling down? Is that actually what you want?
Mm.
So make sure you check the source.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a huge one. And lastly is basically building in flex, i.e., giving yourself grace. We
Mm.
always say it, and it's an underlying theme, is how kindly do you speak to yourself. So what I was saying in the beginning is speaking to yourself with love and kindness, genuine kindness. Just making sure that if you don't meet your expectations, pause, be kind. Don't judge yourself, because that's going to be a huge thing which will actually
Mm.
spiral you worse off. Just because you haven't met your expectations for that day doesn't mean that you're an underachiever or you're not enough. That doesn't mean any of that.
Mm. It also comes back to episode 16, I believe, when things don't go to plan.
Yes.
Um, Having that flexibility there and allowing yourself to just be
Yep.
flexible in that sense and not, again, like you say, beat yourself up if that hasn't gone the way you wanted to achieve this today, but your car broke down, so of course you can't do that. So you've got to have a plan B, and that's absolutely fine. When it
Yeah.
comes to other people, I think, like we've said from the beginning, just the preemptive set those, respect yourself and that person and your collective dynamic. I think that's
Yeah.
just being preemptive with these expectations for you, for them, what you expect from them, what they can expect from you. Yeah, it's not like you're sitting down and being like, "I think we're going to be friends. Shall we be friends? Okay, before we become friends,
Here's what
let's
I
talk about
require.
what I want from my friendship and what you want from your friendship." It's
S
not
something like that.
That's not like that. These things happen organically and they're set out and they'll develop over time. And it's just as you get to know someone, you have conversations around like, what are your qualities in a friendship? What do you look for? And those are opportunities where
Mm,
you can sort of set those expectations and be like, I actually love in loyalty in a friendship and it's my biggest thing in a friendship. So, I truly look for that. And you could even say, that's what I value and why I see our friendship having such a good potential because I anticipate, I think I'm right that you're such a loyal person, right? And those sorts of ways, um,
nope,
no,
I'm
no,
not, no.
he's not fickle, extremely
Fickle
fickle.
as anything.
Yeah, exactly.
But I think this goes hand in hand with how you set a boundary, is you can be forward and direct, but also you can be kind as well. Both those things simultaneously can happen. Um, it's setting a boundary and being controlling are two very different things. So saying, I don't want you to do this, for instance, that's controlling, but saying, when you do this, it makes me feel this way, that's a very good way to set a boundary.
Mm,
It's showing you that this action makes me feel this way or has this effect, instead of
or
saying, don't do this.
yeah, you can't do that. The boundary is saying I won't tolerate that behavior.
Yeah, you can be firm with your boundaries.
Yeah.
That is your values, and that's you respecting yourself.
Hmm.
So you can be direct, but you can also be kind as well.
Yeah. When it comes to managing up, it's telling this is workplace related, but also can be, I think, again, in teammates, friendships where you're being productive together, is telling people how you work best. If you like deadlines to be given in advance and you find your boss is saying you need to do this
Mm,
yesterday. Okay, I've in a working capacity, can we talk about how we can best support me and work for our expectations moving forward? What I would like and how I work best is if I have like an X amount of time or X amount of notice for a deadline or whatever it is, or I work better on meetings in the afternoon and better on solo work in the mornings. All of those sorts of things are managing up and letting your managers or your colleagues know how you work best so you can set those expectations. And again, that might not always be met because in a working capacity, we can't have everyone sort of pander to our every single need,
no,
but at least you've set those expectations. And if someone is kind and they're a good manager, they might try and accommodate those sorts of needs.
yeah,
Um,
it's
okay,
true.
cool. Yeah, we'll set our weekly catch ups in the afternoon because you work better on your solo work in the mornings. That's a very reasonable thing if it can be accommodated.
That's the exact
Um,
example of what this next point is use expectation conversations. So set meaningful time where you and your partner or your boss, whoever it is, can talk about
mm,
what your expectations actually are. Set meaningful time towards that, whether it's your boundaries or whatnot. It can be 5 minutes, but you can say, hey, listen, I want to have a quick talk with you before you shoot off for work, if that's all right. Or even to your boss, do you have 5 minutes before lunch where we can just quickly chat?
mm,
I want to talk to you about my expectations here. Allowing specific time for that will allow you to be a lot more in control and allow that time as well for you to openly speak about it instead
yeah,
of you speaking about it in a time where it's not for that as
yeah.
well. It allows the grace for what you say to come out.
I think why the term MOT is so important here is because it's like it is kind of a check-in.
Yeah.
You might have started a project with a colleague or a business with a friend, and you went into this project with your colleague having set those expectations from the beginning. Okay, this is what you're going to do, this is what I'm going to do, this is the days I'm going to work, da 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 da, this, that, and the third. 6 months in, so much noise, so much has happened, so much just all of the other variables have gone on. It's important amongst all of the noise to be able to have that MOT to be like, okay, I know we set these expectations at the beginning, but we didn't know what this was going to look like. We didn't know how it was going to pan out. Now, in the sake of being dynamic, but also respecting each other and our expectations, let's have that MOT. Let's think, okay, well, we didn't even know that this side of the project was even going to be a thing, and we've kind of gone on the fly now. But do we want to set expectations for who's going to do what with
Yeah.
this thing that's come up that we didn't even predict for? All of those sorts of things are just important, and that's why I like the analogy of an MOT because it's like a yearly, in this instance, a yearly check-in to be like, okay, let's make sure everything's running healthy, everything's good, everything's happy.
Yeah.
Um, and finally, that leads to
Follow through.
follow through.
Follow through. Make sure that when you're setting an expectation, let's say for instance, this is what you can expect of me. Follow through and do that, because
Yeah.
if you don't, then you're eroding that trust that
Mm,
that you did so well to build by setting that expectation in the first place.
yeah.
If that's a boundary, for instance, if you don't keep up with your boundary, it can erode that trust, and
Yeah.
whoever it is in this situation will feel confused.
But also, if you're expecting someone to do the same for you and respect your expectations, you kind of also need to follow through with your side of it.
Yeah,
So there's that reciprocity there, and that
it's
mutual
true.
trust.
So those are just some ways that you can manage expectations,
Mm,
whether it's in any capacity, and become better at it. It is a conscious choice, though.
it is.
It is very much a conscious thing.
It is. I feel like we covered a lot of ground there. So we might not necessarily have gone as deep in all areas. I know we did in some areas.
Mm.
And thank you for that. Um, but we did cover a lot of ground, and I hope that that was enjoyable.
Hopefully you've learned something.
Yeah,
I've learned a lot. I
for
mean, I
sure.
love talking about communication
Yeah,
and boundaries and
so
everything like that.
important.
It's so important and it's something that we don't offer. I've only learned it recently.
Mm.
How have I gone 24 years without knowing how to communicate and set boundaries? How has that happened?
Respectfully, we are the powerhouse of communication.
Yeah, we are. It's been what's funny for me though is it's taken intentional work to get there.
Yeah.
It's taken
Well, it,
active learning.
yeah.
If I wouldn't have taken the active time to learn what communication does for you, I would never have learned that. It's
Mm.
not a thing which is just I don't know, maybe it is known, but then it stops when you get older.
No, I think being good at anything takes intentionality. You
Yeah,
can be somewhat good at a baseline, but to be really good and expert in something and to
it takes
keep refining,
practice.
it takes continued refinement, practice, introspection, all of those things that we're constantly trying to do
Yeah.
here. And I know I said we're really good at it and we're the powerhouse, but I'm still always trying to work on it. I'm not sitting arrogantly being like I'm the best communicator, but I could always be better, and you
He
could as
can.
well.
Yeah.
No,
I'm pretty
maybe not.
good.
Yeah, you're pretty good.
I'm pretty damn
Yeah.
good.
But yes. So before we sign out,
Mm-hmm.
tell me,
Mm.
have you got anything to boost your mood this
I
week?
do indeed. We were at the Monday Mood Booster on Monday.
Yes.
There was a new face there called
Oh,
Heba.
Heba.
Heba, lovely, lovely lady. It was her first ever 5K, I believe.
Incredible.
And the funniest thing was I had no idea until the end as well. She was at the back running with me because I was just setting the back there. We were chatting. She was asking about the run club, just life in London, everything here. And it just came out a kilometer before we finished that
Mhm.
it was her first ever 5K.
Yep.
I wasn't at the front, so maybe you can say it, but apparently everyone was chanting her name as they were finishing.
Yeah, we was a proper motivational crew. So at the club we make sure no one's left behind. So if someone is like walking at the back, what we'll do is like, I'll go to the back, pick them up, and then they'll come with me to the front so we can set the pace together. So Heba, Mark, one of the runners, and myself, we were there at the front, and Mark and I were just we were the motivational team, and we were just going hard.
Nice.
Very proud of Mark and how he's just so lovely and
Marky
kind.
Mark's
He's such
great
a kind
character.
person, and
He
was just
also joined randomly, didn't he?
yeah, he did.
Remember that? That was hilarious.
And he was just really helping Heba as well, and it was just incredible to see someone hadn't run anywhere near that distance before, just feel able to, obviously nervous, but to be able to then feel safe and to do that with us. I'm just so proud of that club and what it stands for and what we do. It's just incredible. So
Boosted my mood. Well done,
definitely,
Heba.
Heba
Well done.
boosted my
Massive
mood more than she
congratulations.
knows.
She did
Not
indeed.
only for seeing her succeed, which I love, but also selfishly, it just made us as a club feel. Yeah, I know the ambassadors and myself all felt really happy that evening just for
It's
what
great.
we're able to do.
Great indeed. What
Yeah,
was your weekly mood boost?
my weekly mood boost. Our dear friends Jay and Lucy, avid listeners as well, they've just purchased their second home. Well,
Golly.
Lucy's first home, Jay's second home.
Come on,
Incredible
Jay.
stuff. Congratulations.
Well done,
Looks like a
both of you.
lovely house. Already following their. I won't say it because I don't know if they. I'm sure they do want it to be public, but I don't know, so I'm not going to say. If I will tag them if I can.
Yes.
Their Instagram for their home, which is their renovation because it's a doer upper, so they're documenting it all on Instagram.
That's so
I'm
cool.
already there in the comments every single day, just hyping up every single thing because that's me, and I'm just like, keep
Yeah.
it coming. I want to see more. And it's just so nice seeing them move in
It's great.
together. Well, they already live together, but have that house together with
Yeah.
Tommy as well, their little dog. Yeah, it's lovely.
Excited to see where that goes.
Very excited.
Well done, both of you. Boosted our moods.
Congratulations.
That's a lovely episode. Was that your not?
No, not at all.
You sure?
Not at all.
Not at all.
Not at all.
Right, well, thank you for
very
being here.
much.
Thank you for the conversation.
Just thank you also for the patience on the pre-records. We are back to
Yes.
business as usual on the next episode.
We're
so
back, baby.
any of the above, thank you for your patience.
Let us know
and
what you think, though.
yeah, let us know what you think.
Let us know.
And we'll be back to post-holiday Charlie
Yes, I'll let you know how,
next time you
guys. The holiday's
listen,
been
and we'll
great.
see your expectations on how it went versus how
Wow,
it was.
managing expectations
Or
part
what? Sorry,
2.
what you expected versus how it was.
Managing expectations part 2.
Yes.
Wow.
How are
I'll
we?
do the turn her off if you want to
Da
go
da
on.
da
Listen to some
da
ASMR.
da 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 da. He's going on holiday. Do, 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 do.